So it's a big Warhammer 40k release week. Kill Team Toon World brings some new Necrons and Deathwatch to the tabletops, though if rumours are to be believed, it's going to be very pricey indeed. And to back that up, there's a whole bunch of other individual Kill Team releases, Tyranids and Abmech and some Tyranids terrain, Orcs and Sisters being repackaged, and some made to order 40k things. Let's talk through the week and what we've got. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today Games Workshop has revealed some big Warhammer 40k releases, most notably being some Deathwatch and Necrons in Kill Team Toon World. Games Workshop announced that the kits were coming a few hours ago. Basically the pre-orders will be going live on Saturday the 30th of August. They'll have the usual 2-week pre-order window, and then they'll be on full sale in stores on the 13th of September. The big release of the week is Kill Team Toon World, the new box with the 10 Deathwatch in it, a Geomancer and his Canoptek Circle, and the new Necron Toon World interior terrain. It looks like this box set is going to be very pricey, at least according to the rumours. Beyond that though, we've got the usual individual releases of the stuff that came before. The Raveners kill team that can also build the hyper-adaptive Raveners. I'm sure that'll be of interest to plenty of Tyranids players out there. The Abmech Servitor Battle Clays that looks like it gets packaged with the Techno-Archaeologist, and the Tyranids themed terrain that came alongside that with the Tyranid Infestation. As well as that, it looks like it's going to be the first of the cycling Warhammer 40k reboxes for the kill teams. So there's new releases coming in new packaging for the Commandos and the Novitiates, so being taken out of the orange kill team packaging and into more standard 40k. And finally, it looks like this week also has the made to order of the first of the classic models they showed off last week. They said there'd be 3 waves of made to order things coming from release waves they had earlier in the year. This one's the Eldari and the Emperor's Children, so it seems that the Space Wolves are going to be another time. New models could certainly be interesting enough on a 40k rules kind of front. It means that we'll be getting some new data sheets for the Deathwatch and the Geomancer at least fairly imminently. Games Workshop can be a bit variable as to when they come out. I wonder if they might drop alongside the 40k balance data slate whenever that turns up. I'd guess that's probably going to be in around about 2 weeks time or so, though I guess they could surprise us. As ever, if you're looking to pre-order any of these at the weekend, feel free to check out the channel's affiliate discount retailers, link down in the video description if you wanted to support Auspex Tactics and save a bit versus Games Workshop's prices. There's channel affiliate stores in various different countries around the world, Element Games for 15% off in the UK, Gap Games for 21% off in Australia, Venomous Workshop for 10 in Canada, Wargame Portal for 15 in the USA, and Tash and Geldeep for between 16 and 20 in Germany and the EU. Here are other times where Kill Team Toon World will be expected to go for pre-order at these stores, usually midnight Eastern Time in North America, and then 10 AM in the UK, 11 AM Central European Time, and midday Australian Eastern Time for Gap Games Down Under. I must admit though, I'm not too hopeful that Games Workshop's going to have great stock of these ones. The vast majority of these Kill Team Versus box sets have been kind of hideously underproduced and sold out in seconds, and the amounts given to discount retailers often tended to be absolutely tiny. Obviously worth trying to be early if you can, though probably being ready to fall back to the Games Workshop own web store or other stores might not be the worst idea. Let's focus on the contents and rumoured pricing of Kill Team Toon World though. This one feels like it's going to be really quite a big and popular box set, lots of people interested in the new Deathwatch miniatures, and Necrons are a pretty popular faction with the new Geomancer model being quite a fun miniature. In the box set there's 10 Primaris Deathwatch, the Necron Canoptek Circle led by the Geomancer, a set of Necron Warriors and Scarabs which in theory can be used as MPOs in the Kill Team rules, and then they have the rather fun Necron terrain set that's basically like the sort of Kill Team Gallowdark style terrain rules, but set on a Necron Toon World as opposed to on a Space Hulk. I'd seen a few people saying that they'd seen some shared prices of this one, and it seems like it's rumoured to be $250 US, so that translates to around £150 or 200 euros. Honestly, really quite a lot more expensive than I was expecting if that does turn out to be the case. Unfortunately, I don't really think it's beyond the realms of being plausible. It's certainly a lot more than recent previous Kill Team box sets. Kill Team Typhon was $170. I'd guess the reason for this one being so much more expensive would be the terrain set, if it is. I guess if they're pricing it kind of similar to the Gallowfall style terrain sets, then that would probably be one of the things that's driving the box set's price quite this high. Another reason might be the Deathwatch, if Games Workshop's basically pricing them as a 5 model box set that's going to be costing something like £37 or $60 or so when you buy them individually, and there's 2 sets there. I guess that could be another reason for them setting the price more excessively. If the Deathwatch veterans are eventually going to be sold individually in box sets of 5, then still unfortunately it could mean that if you add up the contents of what you buy this for separately, it still translates to roughly 30% off compared with buying the bits individually from Games Workshop when they do come out. Either way though, if that's right, I believe it's not going to be a particularly feels good price for people. Price aside, in the box set there's Deathwatch vs Necrons, and this one's basically the first new miniatures for the Deathwatch in their Primaris age, replacing this pretty previous fun and flexible Firstborn kit. There's 10 Deathwatch in the box, making up a Deathwatch kill team. As mentioned, I'm not too sure whether or not the eventual plan is to sell them in 5s or 10s, but basically the general idea behind the design of the kit is that you have 5 models, each with a dual build. It looks like you just get the 2 poses per guy, unless they have a generic war gear option that they haven't shown off yet. I guess it's still possible they might still have a generic bolt carbine loadout. Going through the miniatures and their alternative builds, you can build one as either a Blade Master with a Xenophase blade with some cool Necron tech on there, or that's the miniature that builds the Watch Sergeant, who can be armed with at least a power sword and plasma pistol. Then 1 per 5 there's a Gravis Armor Marine, either being able to be armed with an Infernus Heavy Bolter, a Frag Cannon, or a Heavy Bolt Rifle with Grenade Launcher. I'm glad they didn't do away with the Deathwatch unique guns in the set. There's one that either builds a Bolt Carbine or a Plasma Incinerator, so Hellblaster style. A Phobos Marine that looks like you can either basically field him as an Infiltrator with the Aerials and Bolt Carbine, or as a sort of Reaver pattern who seems to have a Grav Shoot and a pair of combat knives. And then it looks like there's a Melee Specialist one, either taking a Heavy Thunderhammer or a Shield and Power Weapon. Putting that all together, you'd be able to get 10 different models out of the Kill Team box set, and having a new unit with a whole bunch of mixed Primaris profiles in there will mean that the Deathwatch get a new datasheet. It could be quite an impactful one, given it's pretty much the most central datasheet in the faction that's getting updated. Otherwise in the box there's the Canoptech Circle for the Necrons, as mentioned led by a Geomancer. I'd guess they might be $65 or £42 when they're sold individually. There's 8 models in the set, the Geomancer, 2 Tomb Crawlers, and then 5 subordinate Macrosites. The Geomancer's quite a fun model, harking back to previous lore establishing subcategories of Cryptech. We've had the majority of the different types realised, things like the Plasmancer and Chronomancer and friends. This one's a fun centipede sort of creation with a great big ornate headdress. I'd guess that staff might be a tremor stave, able to manipulate the ground under their foes. It seems they're all curled around a couple of floating Blackstone Menhir type things, kind of similar to the Silent Kings. Apparently they maintain the status crypts in the Tomb World, and this one apparently has got up to repel some invaders. Looks like they'll be fighting the Deathwatch alongside their Canoptech creations. It'll be interesting to see what happens for the rules for it, and whether it'll be a character that's locked to the Canoptech retinue, or can join on to other things too. Then for their Canoptech minions, they've got Macrosites, which basically feel like the Plasmasite style things that accompany the Destroyers, but a bit bigger. It seems that one of them's a Reanimator, maybe helping out the squad's reanimation as a medic style thing. One's designated as an Accelerator. It might give the squad a boost of some sort that might just be not represented in 40k rules and might just be a kill team thing. And then 3 Macrosite Warriors. Despite that designation, I'm sure they're going to be fairly cheap and expendable drones. Seems they've got some scythe talons and things, and a little Gauss weapon of some sort mounted on the top of them. Then for just a little bit of heavier fire support, there's a couple of Tomb Crawlers. These things look like they're sort of mini Canoptech spiders pretty much. One of them mounting a medium-sized Gauss weapon. The other one I think people said might be having some sort of trans-dimensional beamer style thing in a similar sort of way as the Wraiths do. So it seems like the squad will have a little bit of firepower to it, but I'm not really anticipating them being a massive danger threat in their own right. Overall, between that, the models were pretty well received. Maybe not exactly the single most central Necron unit in the world, but quite a cool character with a fun, unique retinue. It'll be interesting to see what their special rules bring to the table in Warhammer 40k. If they're not going to be crazy damage dealers, I guess they'll hopefully need to have some good utility value. I feel like for Necron collectors, the Kill Team Terrain set and the extra warriors might not be the worst things for being tempted to get the box set. It does look quite fun. Necron Tomb World interior terrain with a whole bunch of fallen obelisks and things, kind of done in the same sort of style as the Convergence of Dominion, where you have the technology emerging from the crumbling stonework. Here's a few more pictures of the bits. You can change it around and reconfigure it, plugging into those columns on the corners. It's got some doorways and hatches, including one that's obscured by some crackling Gauss lightning, it would seem. I quite enjoyed the slumbering Necrons waiting to be reawakened, some of which are being better preserved by their status fields compared with others. In any case, let me know your thoughts as to the Kill Team Tomb World box set. Would you be tempted to pick it up or not? And if the price is the big $250 or £150 or so, will that change your thinking? Otherwise, for Kill Team release things this week, we've got the individual releases of the stuff that came out last time. So there's the AdMech Servitor Battleclade. Maybe the biggest question with this one was whether or not the Techno-Archaeologist will be in the box or not. I would probably have guessed not, though it seems like he is. I'm not necessarily sure whether that's good or bad news for AdMech collectors that want the squad themselves. I guess to some extent he might be paying for the extra character. It looks like the rumoured price for these is $70, so that will put them at around about £44 or €58 or so. My instinct is that Games Workshop wouldn't have charged too much less for that if the Archaeologist hadn't been included, so I guess it might be handy enough for AdMech players. I suppose he is quite a fun model, and he could kit bash spare ones into other things if you wanted. For 40k rules, I have seen a few people play with them. They're basically really quite a cheap unit that's actually somewhat tanky for the cost at just 60 points. They've got toughness 4 and 4+ save, so aren't a pushover to shoot down. They have a little bit of close range shooting, and they can do some actions and shoot after advancing as well. So perhaps don't do too badly for a fairly expendable AdMech unit to march towards the mid-board and be a better thing to take firepower if something's going to. Otherwise, from the Kill Team Typhon releases, we've got the Raveners themselves. These were a pretty fun update for Tyranids players, not just having the regular Raveners as new miniatures with cool new sculpts, but having the Kill Team Specialists as well. I quite enjoyed the way that they made them a sort of Ravener command squad rules-wise for 40k. I split the datasheet in two for two different ones. I saw a couple of people reporting that the price would be $65 for these guys, so around £42.50 or €55. At first impressions that maybe doesn't feel too terrible for at least fairly chunky Tyranid miniatures with a fair few options. It seems pretty equivalent to some offerings for 40k and not paying a big premium for Kill Team. They've certainly had some good relevance in game at the moment, with the Subterranean Assault detachment being fairly good for the Tyranids. Both the hyper-adapted Raveners and the regular ones seem to have got some good play there. The hyper-adapted ones getting some free rapid ingress and some pretty general purpose melee with their anti-keywords and twin linked on their claws. The regular ones getting their return to reserves for utility factor, and then you can combine them into one big super unit if you want a massive Alpha Strike heavy hitter. Their main weakness perhaps being that they aren't just excessively hard to take down for the cost if you can bring some damage to bear on them. Otherwise, for the Typhon things, they've got the individual release of the Tyranid Infestation terrain. A bit of fun faction-specific terrain I think is a pretty good move here. I'm sure that'll be tempting to at least a fair few Tyranids players for 40k who haven't picked it up already. Could be a cool way to spice up an existing terrain set with a bit more faction-appropriate feel. Finally, for the Kill Team releases, we've got the 40k repackagings of the Commandos and the Sisters Novitiates. When Games Workshop released their new edition of Kill Team around 4 years ago now, these were some of the first ones to be released for that setting, and I believe that their current idea is to support them in the competitive game for 3 years or so, and then after that give them Legends rules, and then the Kill Team box sets are just more standard units for 40k after that. As a result, these two are being taken out of Kill Team packaging and put into 40k packaging. I'd guess they'll probably just be the same prices as what they were when they went away. It is probably too much to hope for, but there's at least a chance they could be a little cheaper. If they're not being packaged with extra Kill Team things like the counters and stuff, it does feel like Kill Team kits are charged at a premium due to that at the moment. So far I've not seen any rumours for their prices. I'll certainly cycle back to them later in the week when we get some news. Then finally I talked about these guys yesterday, but it seems there was quite a short turnaround between these classic Metal 40k miniatures being announced that they would be coming back at some stage, and now they're going up for pre-order very shortly, in Games Workshop's usual sort of made-to-order style offering. It seems the ones that are going up for sale this weekend are the Eldari and the Emperor's Children. They'll be put on the web store on the 30th of August, and then they'll just be until the 8th of September if you want to pre-order any of them, and then Games Workshop manufacture them over the next 180 days and post them out to you. As they're nothing to do with third-party discount retailers, I suspect that we'll only get prices for these guys when Games Workshop actually put them on sale next Saturday. The ones that are coming back are a small wave of metals for the Eldari and the Emperor's Children, and compared with some recent ones of these, they've decided to bundle their offerings into some small collections rather than individual character miniatures, which I'm not necessarily sure is going to be a good thing. For example, they've got a set on the left here with an Emperor's Children Lord, Lucius the Eternal's previous sculpt, and Fabius Bile. They all come as one set, so it does mean that say if you wanted to pick up the classic miniature for Fabius Bile, you'd also have to buy the other two. Otherwise, the other two sets for the Emperor's Children are the Noise Marines on the right. They're from very early on in Warhammer 40k, coming before the previous upgrade kit for the old Chaos Space Marine kit, and then the more recent psychedelic coloured Noise Marine miniature standing on a Primaris helm. I'm sure he could be at least somewhat tempting to current Emperor's Children collectors. I believe they took him off sale not so very long before the Codex came out. Finally for the Eldari, there's these 3 sets, again 2 big combined offerings here. We've got Eldrad Ulthuan just on his own, 1 set on the right for 5 Warlocks and an older Farseer miniature on the top right. I feel like they're quite fun and pretty playable as just a Seer Council sort of formation in 40k right now. And then perhaps the biggest, most interesting, and I've got no doubt very expensive set on the left has the Avatar of Khaine and a whole bunch of classic Phoenix Lords. The original sculpts, I believe from the 90s for Morgan Ra, Baharoth, Azamon, Karandras, Jainzar and Fugan, all led by the previous sculpt of the Avatar of Khaine. I'd guess seeing as they're all old character miniatures led by a character monster, it's going to be all very expensive. Again, maybe could have the potential to be kind of frustrating as well, say if you just wanted the sculpt for old Morgan Ra or Karandras, who seems to have been lost in the warp. It's all or nothing on the Phoenix Court set. In any case, definitely some fun classic models returning there. Let me know if you'd have any interest in them down in the comments below. In any case, really quite a lot of 40k releases and re-releases here. Let me know which ones you might be tempted by, if any of them. I look forward to hearing all your takes down in the comments below. What do you make of new Deathwatch and Necrons and the rumoured prices for the Toon World box set? As mentioned, if you did happen to be picking up anything at the weekend, feel free to check out the channel's affiliate discount links. There'll be links down in the video description below. A big thank you to anyone using those. I'll leave that there for now though. Feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more like this. I'll certainly look forward to covering any more news of the releases. I'll certainly talk through confirmed prices when we get them, and any new data sheets for the Deathwatch and the Necrons. If you'd like to support the channel more directly, Auspex Tactics also has a Patreon page as well, and you can find that linked in the video description below. Channel patrons get a few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link's down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.